During the development of the Snyderverse, and especially the early drafts of Batman v Superman and Justice League, a lot of people walked through the revolving door before they finally landed on the final version, which of course then ended up being botched and, well, ended up being Joss Whedon's version, but then we got the Snyder Cut. But now, one of the writers of the original draft talks about what his version of the film would have been had they gone with it fully. So the original writer, who was hired in 2019 to work on what would become Justice League, that eventually evolved into the Justice League we know with Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, under Zack Snyder, that writer, Will Bale, was recently talking with The Wrap about the development of the DCEU, what happened, what they were working on, and how his early draft eventually ended up being used somewhat by Zack Snyder and WB and DC, and how he ends up getting some credit while he never officially worked on what Zack Snyder's vision ultimately was. Now, if you guys remember, way back when, and this is, I mean, like 12, 13 years back, WB originally, with Will, went after Ben Affleck for him to possibly direct and star. Rumors are he would have just been sought after directing, but they were interested in maybe him playing Batman. But again, that all went in a different way. Well, he talked about what his film was and how he was working with the likes of Jeff Johns and ultimately what his version of Justice League would have been. He reveals that more or less some of the things that we see are the same, except the majority of the second and third act was more like and akin to Back to the Future 2, where they were flashing forward, things were changing in the past, and then flashing forward again to deal with the fallout of this coming invasion of Darkseid and his armies, and that the post-apocalyptic sequence that we see the dream of and that Zack Snyder added to the Snyder Cut was his original vision, aka Will Beale's original vision. And that's why he obviously still gets some credit with work in DC and some of the ideas they took, because you need to credit the people that came up with ideas that others used, even if it's not the full thing. So this sort of paints an interesting picture on, well, what Justice League could have been once it started development in 2011, because it was supposed to pick up after Green Lantern and this Superman reboot that they were working on that were going to be building off of one another. And if you guys remember, Green Lantern at the end was supposed to feature a cameo from Superman, but they didn't get it done in time, so things went in a different direction. But it's pretty fascinating to know that a lot of what people legitimately loved about Zack Snyder's ultimate vision comes from a completely different writer that wasn't even attached to Zack Snyder's vision at the beginning. Kind of fascinating how Hollywood works and evolves.